It's like a big.
Which is bigger?
No, mine's like thicker. Yours is like long and thick.
Oh, you mean mine's longer? Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Yeah,
That is so wild out of context.
Welcome back to the Unfortunate Diehards podcast. Hashtag number 71. Sophie and I's conjoined favorite player, Chris Tierney.
Oh, I didn't even remember that he's
New Jersey Devils legend, Ottawa Senators legend, San Jose Sharks legend, probably somewhere else for like a game. Montreal?
I honestly don't know.
I'm a big Chris Tierney guy, so.
Yeah.
You're a big Chris Tierney guy.
Yeah, you know why? Because he played on my favorite team, the Ottawa Senators.
Yes,
my
but
name's
then
Evan.
My name is Omar, and I'm a Leafs fan, and I'm not done about Chris Tierney yet, but sure.
Boo.
My name's Sylvia. I'm a Cavs fan, as you could tell, hopefully.
I'm also an
It's a very ugly hanger.
Mercedes fan.
Yeah?
I'm a big Don Cherry guy.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
That's a bit risky.
That's risky now, yeah.
It's risky in this climate, Evan.
I think it's nice, Evan.
Yeah.
It's been raining for 5 days, bro.
This is an exciting episode because we're on the horizon of a new season.
And Omar and I are...
Well, it's not that exciting. We're talking about the Central Division first, so...
True. And also true.
What do you say?
I said and Omar and I are finally openly together.
Ah. This is fair.
But yeah, we've got some division rankings for you today because we're approaching a new season. Preseason's already begun, so we're going to start with our West Division rankings today, and it's exciting because we're about to start a new season.
We're trying a different format.
Officially, with these division rankings, officially season 3 of the Unfortunate Diehards podcast. So we're starting with the Central. Yours truly, Central Division, the most exciting division in hockey.
So we're going to kick off today's episode by doing our Central Division rankings. We're going to go over each team, their additions, subtractions, and where we see them ending at the end of the year. We're going to talk about maybe X factors and discuss if we are wildly off from each other's rankings. Probably Omar different than Sufi and I. And we'll go from there.
All right, so we can start with Omer, if you want to read over Chicago. We'll start with Chicago. And Omer, if you want to go over their team stats from last year.
The Chicago Blackhawks of 23-24, Connor Bedard's first season in the NHL. Their record was 23 wins, 53 losses, and 6 OT losses. Ended up 8th in the Central Division, which was last. So the Chicago Blackhawks of 23-24 in Connor Bedard's first season, they had a record of 23 wins, 53 losses, and 6 overtime losses, ending up 8th in the Central Division, which was last. Regulation wins 17, 31st in the league. Missed the playoffs. Goals for per game, 32nd. Goals against per game, 29th. Power play percentage, 28th. PK percentage, 27th. 5-on-5 goals for percentage, 31st. Shots for per game, 31st. Shots against per game, 28th. Face-off win percentage, 30th. And average age is 28.2 years old.
All right, so this is one of the teams where there's a lot of new faces. And so we'll start off with some of the forwards. So they have Tyler Bertuzzi, who came in from Toronto.
Aww.
They have Pat Maroon that signed for $1.3 million. They have Ilya Mikheyev, absolute legend. Teuvo Teravainen is back for his second stint in Chicago. And they have Craig Smith, ex-Capital, as well on forward. Just working out with someone who may not be new in the forward core. They have Frank Nazar as a potential rookie who may make the team. Then on defense, they have TJ Brody, also ex-Leaf, as well as Alec Martinez. They have potential rookie Artyom Leshinov, who may make the team, probably not, but may get some games depending on injury. And
Yeah, he is injured already. He himself is injured, so
perfect.
yeah.
And in goal, they have Laurent Brossoit.
I'm just dying at when you said Ilya Mikheyev, you're like absolute legend.
He also like emphasized the Mikheyev part, bro. He made him sound like a terrorist.
Ilya Mikheyev.
Yeah.
That's good. All right. So
Key departures.
All right, so key departures on this team that may have even been top 6 players because this team was trash last year. Colin Blackwell, Taylor Radish, Tyler Johnson, Reese Johnson, Mackenzie Edwistle, Jacob Megna, and Leafs and Senators legend
Nikita Zaitsev.
Man, I'm sad he didn't play for my team. Do you know where he went?
Yep.
I actually don't know where Nikita Zaitsev went.
You're good.
Yeah.
You were frozen for a second. He went to the KHL.
Ah, okay. It makes sense, actually. I don't think he's NHL caliber.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go over the roster a little bit. It looks quite different from last year, especially down the wings and everywhere. Down the middle, they have Bedard, Dickinson, and Athanasiou as their top 3 centers, and any combination of Hall, Bertuzzi, Foligno on the left, and Teravainen, Kurashev, and Smith, and Craig Smith on the right, I think will happen. And then the 4th line tryout spots, you're looking at Joey Anderson, Lucas Reichel, Pat Maroon, and then Ilya Mikheyev and Ryan Donato fighting for spots on the wings, and Frank Nazar might get a look at some point throughout the season.
Mikheyev's making $1 million. You better flip him.
I know. That's why I was so surprised with that trade, because their wings are like crowded. So maybe you'll get a shot on the right side somewhere as well. On defense, Vlasic and Seth Jones. Vlasic had a really nice year last year. Alex Vlasic. Kevin Korchinski.
I hate when a young player comes into the league with the same last name as a really good player. Like when Devon Taves showed up when Jonathan Taves was around, I'm like, get out of here.
You're not gonna love the Vancouver preview
No, I
then.
can't go Taves. I can't go Vlasic. I have to specify. Oh.
What was that?
Bro.
That came in now? Tidge Iginla or something? Tidge?
Tidge again, his son.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
Just
Shane Doan and Josh Doan. But yeah, no, you're not going to love Vancouver's because they have 2 Elias Petterssons, and the other one might make the team. So
That's if they were on different teams, I'd be like, oh, that's annoying. But it's
Sebastian Aho.
exactly like go away.
Yeah.
Go play with
And then Kevin Korchinski and Connor Murphy as the second pair is likely, with Alec Martinez and TJ Brody rounding out the top 6. Although they might play up.
It was technically the Ottawa Senators' first round pick.
Who?
Korchinski was with the Ottawa Senators pick.
Very good player. He'll probably get a bigger look this year on the power play and stuff like that. Levchinov is injured, so he's probably not going to play. And he was going to start in the AHL probably anyway. And then their goalies, Peter Mrazek's the starter. Laurent Brossoit was signed as like a 1B, but he is also injured to start the season. So Arvid Soderblom is probably going to be the backup again, and he was really bad last year. So we'll see what happens with there. So that is the Chicago Blackhawks.
Right, now we're going to tell you the analytics of every player. So Kurashev has a WAR of 8. I don't know what WAR means, to be honest. But I know
Wins above replacement.
wings above replacement.
Wins.
Not wings. What wings above replacement even mean?
Okay, so Omer, where do you have the Chicago Blackhawks placing?
Okay, I have the Blackhawks slightly improving, and that just means not ending last in the league / in the division. I struggle with one thing with the Blackhawks right now, or there's still many things to struggle with the Blackhawks right now. A couple of things look good. Like I like the addition of Tyler Bertuzzi. I like the addition of even someone like Pat Maroon, to be honest. I like Alec Martinez. I don't mind these guys coming. I think they make the team better. I think maybe with a even healthier Taylor Hall plus Connor Bedard, this offense could.
Healthier Taylor Hall? He was just not healthy at all.
Yeah, but he played a bit. How many games did he play last year?
Like 10 games.
Okay, all right. So hopefully a healthy Taylor Hall and a healthier Connor Bedard, and a Connor Bedard that takes more steps now. I think the forward core can can do something. Where they lose me more right now is their Peter Mrazek as their starter.
Who's not even the starter to start.
Yeah, like I don't know who they're gonna end up with going starting. Like I don't think there's a clear start. Like Mrazek can't be a clear starter. But anyway, I have them ending second last in the division, which is 7th spot.
All right, to Evan.
Thank you, Sufjan. I have them last
Okay.
Why is that?
because they suck. What is up, brother? No, just kidding. I do have them last. While they have a lot of new players, Craig Smith, not that good. Patrick Moon, not that good. Mikheyev, not that good. Bertuzzi,
Absolutely.
that's like
It's getting there.
all right player to add, and Teravainen, another good player. And that Martinez and Brody are both old. Brossoit is also kind of old and not that good of a goalie. So really, they added 2 wingers that might help a little bit, and I don't think it makes them that much better than last year. So I could see them maybe getting to like high 20s, maybe like around 30 wins max. Or maybe they all go crazy and I'm dumb. But I don't see it as a huge turning stone because, yes, Bedard's getting better, but Hall's older, Foligno's getting worse. Dickinson and Athanasiou are 30. They're not getting better. Kurashev had a good season, but I don't know if that could have just been his career year sort of thing. Seth Jones is also around 30. Like, I don't see this team progressing enough because they progress and regress at the same time with the amount of players they have. So I see it being similar-ish, maybe a slightly better than last year. But, yeah.
On paper, they look a bit better than last year.
Yeah, there's some sexier names,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. There's recognizable names.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, Maroon, they're better now.
Yeah. No, I have them finishing 8th as well. But I do think that, like, Evan's right. Like, they'll have closer to 30 wins. Like, I could see like a Montreal progression like last year where Montreal finished with like 77.
Actually, Montreal had a sneaky, weirdly good season because I think they had the most 1-goal losses in the entire NHL. So it's like they were in so many games.
And they weren't like they still had like a decent amount of points. I think they finished like late 70s in points or something like that. So I'm not saying they could reach that. I'm saying like around 70 points rather than like, 60 or 50 or whatever the hell they had last year. I do think Bedard takes a big step this year and he has a little bit more help. I think Hall, Bertuzzi, Teravainen, and Kurashev as wingers are kind of better than what they had last year because Kurashev and Hall, I'm pretty sure, were injured at separate times last year. So he was playing with like Joey Anderson and Nick Foligno, etc. Not bad player. But yeah, Martinez and Brody addition also. I don't mind that either. Like pretty responsible defenseman. It's better than having like just straight up rookies out there, and probably helps Korchinski out a little bit as well. So Mrazek and Brossoit, that's a get you through the season kind of goaltending tandem. So
When they're
barely.
I mean, like for what
goalies that
they're goalies,
be in the NHL somewhere else.
Yeah.
Like 2 or 3.
1B. They're both 1Bs, 2As. I don't know, but they're
And because people get to come here, they get overpaid. So they're probably like, you know what?
Facts.
If I'm old, why not?
facts. Brossoit was actually pretty good last year. I think he falls kind of into like the Stolars category. Sure.
Thank you for that.
But
input.
he's not bad. He's probably not going to look great with this team defense, but yeah. All right, let's move on to X Factor players. So this is essentially for what Chicago was trying to accomplish this year, who is like the most important player to that. It's not necessarily the best player, not necessarily the person that everyone would look to like help a team make the playoffs. This is just like, who is the X Factor player for the Chicago Blackhawks? Omer?
Okay, for me, there's no ifs, ands, and buts. Like, he is the best player, but he is the X factor. It's Connor Bedard. I mean, there's no one else on the team that warrants making any difference on this team apart from him. Like, they're on a full out rebuild. he's the one they need the most from, and he's gonna be the one that they make decisions based on his performance. So it's him. It's gonna be him, and it's always gonna be him for his career there.
Evan.
Yeah, like it's hard to disagree and say like this person is not the main focus of the team. You know, Soderblom is just all
That's not
in.
the guy who I would have went to.
No, it's Bedard. And if you were talking about your wife like that sounded very nice. You're like, it's always him. It's never not going to be him. Forever and always.
God.
Consider everything. So yeah, also
he's one of those players that a few years from now, when they have a decently competitive team, even like the X factor is going to be him always. You know, it's just what it is.
I think the way I'm understanding this is a little bit different. Like, I think Bedard he's important. He's the most important player. It's just, I think that for what they're trying to accomplish, Taylor Hall being healthy is kind of a big X factor. I think that for Bedard's progression, it's important that he has serviceable wingers, and I think Hall is the one that's like not similar to a skill level. I think that Hall has played at a level like an MVP level, so I think that he can help Bedard elevate his game, but Hall hasn't been healthy for a long time. So I hope that he can get to that and he can be an X factor on this team.
Yeah, it would just the X factor would still be Bedard in that situation though.
I'm seeing it as like
Taylor Hall's health as an X factor is more just like
but it's for in order for Bedard to be successful, he needs people to be healthy. It can't just be him rattling around out there.
He still had like
he still had like
28
60,
goals last year.
yeah, he still had like 65 points or something, didn't he?
I know, but we're trying to get Bedard to like the next level. He shouldn't be having another 60, 70 point game. He should have another 60, 70 point season. It should be like we're talking like 80, 90 point season next year.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what I'm just saying. That's all it is.
It's okay that you're wrong. We can move on.
I just when you say I get what you mean though. I'll get that. Yeah, I get what you mean.
All right, let's move on to Colorado.
Your 2023-2024 Colorado Avalanche looked like this: a record of 50 wins, 25 losses, and 7 OT losses, ending third in the Central Division. Lost in round 2 of the playoffs. Goals for per game, they were first. Goals against per game, they were 17th. And average age is 28 years old. LTIR, they've got Landeskog and Nichushkin. And that's what they were last year, yeah.
All right, so some of the new players that have been added to this team are Senators legend Parker Kelly, as well as the 2 rookies on forward, Jean-Luc Foudy, as well as Nikolai Kovalenko. So they're all hoping to make the team, see where they kind of fit in, as well as on defense. They have a few new additions as well. They have Oliver Shillington. They have Senators legend Eric Brancer, Calvin DeHaan from Carp, so practically an Ottawa Senator, and then also Jacob McDonald on defense.
Not an Ottawa Senator.
Not yet.
And key departures.
And then key departures. They have Andrew Cogliano, Brandon Duhaime, Yakov Trenin, Zach Parise, Sean Walker, Jack Johnson, Caleb Jones, Pavel Francouz, and Ivan Prosvetov. Definitely a key departure there.
Yeah. They didn't have a lot of key departures.
Zach Parise or Zach Parise? Parise. Yeah.
3 of those guys retired, by the way.
Yeah.
Cogliano, Francouz, and Parise. Their lineup's looking interesting. You got McKinnon, Middlestat down the middle as their top 6 centers. Ross Colton and Parker Kelly round out the center core. Lehkonen and Rantanen are likely to be their top line wingers, with any combination of Miles Wood, Jonathan Drouin, Logan O'Connor, and Joel Kiviranta filling out the middle 6. Jean-Luc Foudy. All right. Jean-Luc Foudy and Kovalenko, Belmar, and Chris Wagner are all fighting for like the last two forward spots essentially. The top four defense looks pretty much the exact same as it has for the last season or two, with Taves and Makar and Gerard and Josh Manson. But the bottom four defensemen, I guess, or like the bottom pair and the extra defensemen are going to be a little bit different. You got Shillington and Brandstrom, and Calvin DeHaan and Jacob McDonald. I think Shillington and Brandstrom, they're kind of like reclamation projects. Like these players weren't necessarily bad, but I think they're looking to get a little bit more out of them. And then
You should do a Brandstrom Gerard pairing,
okay,
because that's like essentially together the size of a normal NHLer.
all right. Alexander Georgiev in net with I don't actually know his first name, but Enunin as their backup. He played a bit last year. And he wasn't bad last year.
The first
So,
name.
I think it's just something.
I feel like
And-
it makes sense. Jawed.
Oh, it actually was. I was going to say justice as a joke, but it actually is justice.
Justice.
Like just us, but as together.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was gonna say if it was spelled justice. Cut this out. That's a very black name.
I know. But
I was
they
like,
put a finish.
what?
They put a finish spin on it.
I'm gonna find this now when people edit. Okay.
Yeah. He's actually looking to kind of take over the starting job from Georgiev. I think they kind of want him to, because Georgiev's been pretty brutal, even though the teams they have winning teams. So maybe Justice will look to be the new starter in Colorado.
And Omar, would you like to say the people that are on LTIR/IR?
I did.
He already did.
Perfect.
try.
I was responding to a text from my mom, who's in France right now, so I was not paying attention.
Fair enough.
My mom's
All right.
in Europe.
Oh, well,
Isn't that crazy?
that's pretty crazy, actually.
We'll start with Evan for your prediction for this team.
Well, I personally have Colorado third in the Central Division. I think their President's Trophy window has closed. While they still have very elite players in McKinnon, Rantanen, Makar, Taves, sort of thing. I would say their depth isn't as strong as it has been in the past. Like Druin and Miles Wood for second liners is pretty okay. Then like
Is it though?
and then like Kivy Ranta, Parker Kelly, Logan O'Connor. It's like none of those people are like I'm thinking is like strong third liners or anything. Then yeah, like Samuel Girard has injury issues as well as smaller. Brandstrom, again, a smaller defenseman. Like they used to have just like Brian Graves and
Eric Johnson.
Eric Johnson and stuff just to like round that out. Like while they do have Calvin DeHaan coming in with some experience, like I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. And then their goaltending was an issue last year, and if they're hoping to like a rookie or a pretty young, inexperienced goalie is going to take over from a guy, like I don't know, just doesn't sound like a recipe for absolute dominance. But obviously they're going to win games 6-2 a decent amount of time because they have some of those elite players who are going to score like 100 points.
Maybe 6'5".
But yeah, it just seems like they got slightly worse and have been, I think, over the past few years since winning the Stanley Cup. And yeah, I mean, Nichushkin and Landeskog being hurt or out is also big losses, but the game is the game.
Fair enough. I also have Colorado finishing third. Many of the same reasons. I honestly struggle with this one because I kind of had them like a 4 or 5 at one point as well. I think that they're extremely top heavy. Like McKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar is like probably one of the best 3 players on your team. But then after that, it gets pretty dicey. Players like Middlestat and Colton down the middle, I think that's actually not like a bad center core. I think everything outside of that's a little eh. But yeah, it honestly comes down to goaltending to decide if they're going to actually finish higher than 3, or even, this team might struggle to make it if the goaltending is really bad, or if there's some injuries on defense or whatever. They're going to need really good seasons out of their top players to finish in a higher spot. Homer?
I agree with most of the stuff you guys said. I mean, I have them at second still. I don't have them ending third. I have them second in the div. Yeah, they have gotten worse than their 2021 President's Trophy win, or 2022 President's Trophy win, whenever it was. And goaltending has been an issue for them. Goaltending was kind of an issue for them when they won the President's Trophy, but it's more so an issue for them now. But I don't see, I understand where you guys are coming from, but I see this kind of as a similar discussion to what happened with Boston last year. They got worse, but they didn't really in the season. So I think Colorado still has their big guys that are going to do what they do. They're going to end up second.
If you say so. All right, Evan, who's your X Factor player for this team?
My X Factor player is Casey Middlestat, because I think if they want to have success, depth matters a lot. And while he had a pretty good season last year, I want to see if he can do that consistently, continuing throughout his career. He is 25 and just got a contract extension. So
big contract.
One of those people who just has a great career year on a contract year and then goes back to being a little bit worse? I don't know. But if they can have someone who can actually facilitate and run that second line as a good second line center, then that would be huge for them. So for me, we know what we're expecting out of the big guys, but if he can be a useful player for them throughout the season, that would be big for them.
Fair enough. Just thinking about him. I do have Georgiev as my X Factor. I think it's pretty. I think being the fact that they had the best goal scoring team last year and pretty much similar offense going into next year, except for some depth guys, I think the goal scoring is going to be fine, and they have production from their back end as well. But in order for this team to do something in the playoffs, Georgiev's going to have a much better year than he's had in the last couple of years. And if he doesn't, then Annunen's going to have to step up. So I think goaltending itself is just an X factor, but they're going to have to do either the defense is really going to step up, or Georgiev's going to have a better season than last year. He just needs to be average. He was significantly below average, and they still finished with 50 wins. So
you literally said exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, Georgiev's my X factor. Goaltending's my X factor for them, because I think Georgiev had an 897 or something last year.
Something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't great, and they still ended up second in the div. I don't know. They ended up second.
Negative 8.78 goals saved above average, where his backup had the complete opposite.
Yeah. So if the goalie's too good, then yeah. I mean, if he can play better, or if him and Justice Annunen can.
What a name! That's actually an elite name.
Together bring it home and have decent performances, then I think again they'll end up second. But they need that.
Fair enough. I think these first two teams haven't been anything too difficult, and I don't think the next team is going to be that hard.
What they remind me of right now, as they are, because their current version kind of reminds me of the Leafs, because the discussion we're having about them right now is essentially what we have about the Leafs every year. Oh, the depth.
Except they have a Stanley Cup.
They do, yeah. But
I think the difference
right now, because what's happening is that their big guys are still their big guys.
They're getting paid.
And their depth guys or their secondary guys that have filled in on the other lines now are kind of what happens to the Leafs every year. It seems like they get a bit worse in depth and stuff. But
or they
I think if you're talking
Brown or a Hyman or a Bunting, and then they always leave 2 years later, and then they find another one, and then they leave. See you later, Matthew Nyes, in a couple of years.
I think if you're talking strictly on offense and goaltending,
he's a big guy.
He's 230.
Yeah,
that's why.
Didn't know that?
Or 227.
Yeah. I think you loved him. I thought you knew him.
I didn't know his body fat percentage.
Now he's probably I love him. He's really good.
I mean, if you're talking about offense strictly, yeah. I think the difference with Colorado is that their top four defenseman has always been pretty
Yeah,
strong.
pretty good. Yeah,
Like even the addition of Manson, like he's not necessarily great defensively or offensively, but he's one of the tougher guys, and he's not horrible enough defensively. But he's the right shot defenseman that Toronto's lacked until they got Chris Tanev. But yeah, like Toronto's never had a Taves Makar type pairing, which is pretty
yeah,
important. Like these guys play like late 20s in minutes every year. So,
yeah.
but yeah, all right, that was Colorado. So we're moving on to Dallas now.
All right, your 2023-2024 Dallas Stars team stats. So the record was 52 wins, 21
You
losses.
changed it already with the
And-
red.
Every time we go into the next page, I just do it.
Yeah. So
Rather cut
the
down the fluff time.
team stats for the Dallas Stars in 2023-2024. The record was 52 wins, 21 losses, and 9 OT losses. They ended first in the Central Division, and this is Evan's favorite team apart from the Ottawa Senators.
No,
Well, it
I'm-
seems like they are.
I like Winnipeg and Dallas personally, just overall as.
Yeah, I'd say that Dallas or Winnipeg's the second favorite team, for being honest.
Second,
I actually don't know what my second favorite team is because I just like one team a lot. Unlike Sufi having his 22nd favorite team.
Me too. I only like my one team a lot. I don't care about anyone else. Actually, you know
We're not
what?
talking about this.
I like the
Go.
Rangers.
The Rangers.
I just like their vibe. I like the Rangers vibe.
Like current or all you always like them?
He said the exact same thing about Vegas last year.
And Vegas. I like Vegas as well. I do like Vegas.
Sufi, if
All
you
right.
ever have a problem with me, you should have a problem with him first.
I hate both of you equally. All right, go.
But Vegas, I love their jerseys. I'm a Vegas jersey guy.
Their
And I
jerseys
like-
are awful, bro.
The Kings helmet.
Their jerseys in
I
the
like
in
Kings
the
jersey as well. Beautiful. I like
their
it.
jersey in the new Fanatic style looks terrible.
The Vegas
It looks
one?
like it's freaking glossy, disgusting.
I like the glossy. Okay.
All right, explains a
So,
lot.
third time's a charm. Dallas Stars record 52 wins, 21 losses, 9 OT losses, first in the Central. Their
Right wing. The regulation wins
I just-
are
every time-
40.
every time I see RW, I think right wing. It just goes, my head goes there. So I have to remember it's regulation wins. Okay, I'm gonna try this again. All right. Record 52 wins, 21 losses, 9 OT losses. They ended first in the Central. Regulation wins, they were 7th with 40. Lost in round 3 of the playoffs. Goals for per game, they were 3rd with 3.59. And goals against per game, they were 8th with 2.83. With a power play percentage of 24.2, which was 6th, and a PK percentage of 82%, which was 8th. Average age, 27.6.
Gotta say all the decimals, bro. Come on. Joking.
27.652173991.
Yeah, that's an age.
There you go. All right, Evan. New addition.
All right, so for the forward group, they have a few rookies coming in. They have Blomel, Bork, and Stankoven. Some of them have gotten a few games before. Stankoven looked really good last year. A little water bug out there, which tries really hard. As well as Colin Blackwell being added to the forward group, probably filling in or taking that last spot maybe away from one of the rookies. Then on defense, they have added Matt Dumba, experienced defenseman. Lubushkin, who's more of a shutdown, probably pretty solid third pair, 7th guy, as well as adding Brendan Smith. I didn't even know he was still around. He's there for 1 year and more experience. They have a new backup goalie in Casey DeSmith, and he probably won't get a ton of starts because Ottinger is going to take the load.
Pause.
Key departures this year, big one being Joe Pavelski, Craig Smith, Radek Faksa, Ty Delandria, Chris Tanev going to the
Toronto Maple Leafs.
Ryan Suter, who's getting paid by 3 different teams, Hakanpää, and Scott Wedgwood.
Hopping Paul also to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Damn. All right.
Is there any ex-Senators here? Dadanov!
Yeah, there you go.
First. Oh, what a legend.
Also, the second line center.
Duchesne!
Duchesne,
there you go.
Fantasy team. I will trade him for the right price.
Bro went to Dadonov before he went to Duchesne, man.
I mean, we'll trade anyone for the right price.
I think
I'm
so, yeah.
trying to get someone right now.
All
All
right.
right,
Sufi.
other important. Contrary to the past two teams, this team is really deep on forwards. You got Jason Robertson and Rope Hintz as like their stars. And then Wyatt Johnston on the right, filling in on that line for Joe Pavelski, I think. Then you have the two veterans on the second line, Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, still getting paid the most on the team, but they're hopefully be centered by another veteran in Matt Duchene. So they have one pretty young line and then one extremely old line, but they're both really good lines. And then Mason Marshman probably lines up with Maverick Bork and Logan Stankoven. Maverick Bork, I think he was either the AHL MVP last year or he was like finalist. I don't know, but he was really good. And then Mataj Blamel with Stam Steele and either Dadonov or Colin Blackwell. Colin Blackwell might fill in for injuries, 13 forward kind of player. Thomas Harley and Miro Heiskanen on defense was a really good pair last year. And then Lindell is going to play with either Dumba or Lipshushkin. And then Lion Plachel is a rookie and apparently really good, but I have no idea anything about him. Brendan Smith and Lundqvist are two of the injury replacement / might make the team out of camp kind of guys. And then Jake Ottinger is the outright starter. Didn't have the greatest stats last year, but I think he's pretty safe as a starter. He's going into a contract year now, so we'll see what he gets. Maybe he'll get signed in the middle of the year because I don't think Dallas wants to have the Jeremy Swayman situation with him. So, and then Casey DeSmith is their backup.
All right. So, Sufi, we'll start with you this time. Where do you think they will end up?
There's no team that's really close to this in the Central. Like, they do have some questionable decisions in terms of the defensemen they added, but I don't think it's enough to hurt the overall team that much. Like Dumba and Lipshushkin, I don't think they're going to impact the game in a negative way enough to hurt this team at all. Maverick Bork, I'm really excited about, and Logan Stankoven as well. I think they're good additions to the kind of older guys that are leaving, like Pavelski and Craig Smith. So I do have this team finishing first, and I have them finishing first by quite a lot. So, yeah.
I would agree. I have them finishing first as well. Yeah, I mean, they're deep, they're good, they're still good. Nothing more to say.
Yeah.
They're cracked at Fortnite. They're going to be first. What can I say?
You always say that anyway.
All right.
Is this going to be their cup year, Evan?
Maybe.
I think this is really an outrageous team to pick the cup or pick to win the cup.
Yeah.
Really, it's one of the teams that most
All
people
right,
would
Sufi, your
consider,
X-Factor
right?
for the Dallas Stars.
Wyatt Johnston. I think 2 years at a 60-point pace. Last year, actually at a 60-point pace, and he led the team in goals last year as well. I think he can enter superstar status, especially with Pavelski being gone. Now he gets first line power play time, and he also gets to play with Robertson and Hintz. So I think he can take a bit of a jump this year going into his third season, and I'm kind of excited to see what he does because he's a sick player. So
Okay, so mine is also Wyatt Johnston, but because you said him, I'm going to switch it.
all right.
I'm going to go Jason Robertson because I think Robertson, he came off the year before last year with 100-something points or whatever it was, and then last year he had 80 and 82. I think he's probably going to. I think him jumping back to over 100 points and stuff. Although his playoffs were good last year. I think his improvement will also help Johnston, by the way. So yeah, they played together.
John, he had 80 points in 82 games.
Yeah.
His goals dropped. That's pretty much it.
Well, mine is Thomas Harley because I think while they didn't add any super great defensemen per se in the offseason, I think if he continues to progress and take a step from last year, then that will help the team a lot because he was very serviceable being on the top pair. And if he keeps it up, then that just makes their team even better, and especially on the back end. And losing Chris Tanev big loss because he did a lot for them. So if he can continue to progress and make that defense core overall better, then that's better for them.
Very nice. All right. That is the Dallas Stars, probably our quickest one because there isn't really that much to talk about that team. So let's move on to the Minnesota Wild.
Oh, the Minnesota Wild from 23-24. Their record was 39 wins, 34 losses, 9 OT losses. They ended up 6th in the Central Division. Regulation wins, they were 20th with 32. They missed the playoffs last year. Goals for per game, they were 21st. Goals against per game, they were 20th. And power play percentage, 10th with 22.7%. PK at 74.5%, and they ended 30th. Average age is 28.
All right, so on forward, they have a few regular NHLer additions. They have Yakov Trenin, Jacob Lauko, as well as Reese Johnson. Wow, that's been tough. Also, a couple rookies potentially.
Good luck with that name. Good luck with that that name.
Ogren being added to the lineup, as well as
Khusnutinov.
That looks like such a like southern Russia. Like the Muslims in Russia, the southern part of Russia.
So they're all fighting for some of the last spots on the team. Yakov Trenin probably has his spot for sure. And then in goal, they have Jesper Wallstead probably trying to push one of Gustafsson, who didn't have as good of a year as he had before, and
both of them didn't
out of the net.
Yeah.
Key departures: Mason Shaw, ex-Senator Jake Lucchini, Vinny Letteri, Alex Goligoski, and Dakota Mermis.
Not in my book.
I feel like they should have just been departures.
If you want to just call them departures, you can call them departures, bro. You could say, okay, Mason Shaw was a key departure, but everyone else was just a departure. Honestly, I don't think any of them are key departures, to be honest. They didn't really impact the team. Top 6 is looking pretty good, actually. You got Kirill Kaprizov, Joel Eriksson-Ek, and Matt Boldy as your first line. Matt Zuccarello might play on the first line. Boldy might play on the second. I think it just depends on what they're going with. Marco Rossi had a really good rookie year, and he's their second line center with Marcus Johansson probably on the wing, Yakov Trenin, Ryan Hartman, Marcus Foligno make for a pretty good third line. And then, honestly, the last 5 spots on this team, like last 4 spots on this team, the extra forward with the 3, with the fourth line is pretty up for grabs between Jacob Lauko, the Russian guy in the middle, Frederick Goudreau, and Liam Ogren. And then Reese Johnson is very much a going up and down from the AHL kind of guy. The defense stays the same, except Jared Spurgeon is coming back from Jared Spurgeon. I just pulled the number. Jared Spurgeon is coming back from injury, so he makes the top 4 look a lot better with Jonas Brodin and breakout rookie from last year, Brock Faber, with Jacob Middleton and Jared Spurgeon as the second pair. And then Merrill and Bogosian kind of fill out the defense with, I think it's Dennis Chiselholm or something like that as the extra defenseman. Gustafsson and Fleury, your tandem, both didn't have good years. Jesper Wallstedt is by far the highest ranked rookie goaltender, save for like Askarov. But I think most people regard him as the best goalie prospect in the world. So he's probably going to get a more extended look this year.
Cool. So I guess we'll start with me this time on where I think they'll end. I have them at 6th again.
I don't think you thought about this. You're just like, you know what? Wild 6.
Yeah. I have them at 6th again. I don't have movement with them. I don't know. They're not doing it for me when it comes to like with what the other teams in the division have done / what they have. I think Nashville got a bit better. I think I was okay moving Chicago 1 step up even to the 7th spot, but I don't see Minnesota going anywhere further than they were last year. Like I don't see them going up. I don't see them going down either, but I don't see them going up.
Okay. Evan?
So I have Minnesota fourth because I think while sure it's not the craziest team, they do have Kirill Kaprizov, who is an outstanding forward. They have Matt Boldy, who's also really, really talented and only getting better. They have, essentially they have an elite or very competent positions. Like even in goal, they have three people, and out of one of three of them is probably going to play well this year. On defense, it's a pretty good defense core, like overall. And then on forward, they have multiple players who just are outstanding. We're doing X factors yet? No. Then Sufi.
Evan, I have them finishing fourth as well.
You guys are exactly the same whatever you want so far.
I told you
I think
Sufi and I were going to be the same.
we're probably gonna have one glaring difference, but
Winnipeg not third.
Okay, yeah. I
That's so dumb.
what was I saying? So I have the Wild at fourth. I think their top six is really good, and I think that Rossi can take another step forward as well. But the major thing for me is Jared Spurgeon coming back and being healthy. I think that top four ends up being like one of the better top fours in the league with him being present. But yeah, I do agree with the goalie thing. I think Gustafsson, he did have like a better second half, and Fleury is kind of there for moral support at this point. But I think he's a good mentor to guys like Gustafsson and Wallstedt. So I do expect good things out of one of their goalies, probably Wallstedt, but we'll see what happens. Omer, who's your X factor for this team?
My X factor is Matt Boldy. He's so far been he's heading into his third season, I believe. He's been like a 65-point player kind of thing. I think if he takes a step, this team can really benefit from it, and I think he's due to take a step now. I think he could probably he can add 75, 80 point season kind of thing. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, he had 69 and 75 games last year.
Yeah, so yeah, if he can get to that 80-point mark, like a point per game thing, that can make a big difference.
Bill Guerin said he's going to score 50 this year, so
damn.
Who knows?
Well,
Evan?
My X factor is kind of the opposite. I have Matt Zuccarello because he is quite old and is put in the top six. So I think if he can still at 37, turn 38 probably, be an effective player and put up like 50 plus points, that's huge for them. And they don't have to, like with Marcus Johansson not being that great, like Ryan Hartman maybe has a good year like he had a few years ago. But if Zuccarello can just kind of keep what he's been doing and just kind of defy aging, that's huge for them.
I have two X factors, but they're kind of in the same realm. It's Rossi and Faber.
Pick one.
Okay, Rossi. I think that's Faber kind of established himself as a top pair defenseman already, but Rossi, like, he had a really good rookie year, but I think he needs to kind of make a jump to produce more a little bit offensively. I think him being establishing himself as like a second line center that can potentially end up playing with someone like Kaprizov, I think is going to be really important for this team. Okay, let's move on to the Nashville Predators.
So the 2023-2024 Nashville Predators had a record of 47 wins, 30 losses, and 5 OT losses. They ended fourth in the Central Division. They had 38 regulation wins, which was good for ninth. They lost in round one of the playoffs. They had 3.24 goals per game, which is good for 10th. 3.02 goals against per game, which was good for 14th. Power play percentage sat at 21.6, which was 16th, and PK sat at 76.9, which was 22nd. Their average age is 28 years.
All right, so even though there's not as many colors on this page, I will tell you the key additions to the forward group first. So obviously, as if you are not a new hockey fan, you would have heard that Nashville made some big splashes this offseason, adding 34-year-old Steven Stamkos to their lineup. They also added Jonathan Marchessault, And then a rookie that is hoping to join the team is Joaquin Kemmel. On defense, they also added another big fish, being Brady Shea. And then they have Tanner Molendick, hoping to break into that top 6 role. And they also have Dallas Stars backup goalie from last year backing up UC Saros, being Scott Wedgwood. Their key departures, however you want to look at it this year, were Jason Zucker, Kiefer Sherwood, Cody Glass, Anthony Beauvillier, Jared Anderson-Dolan, Tyson Berry, Askarov, and Lankinen.
Okay, let's see where these guys line up. First line, I kind of have that as the same as last year because it worked really well for them with Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Gustav Nyquist. Their top 6 gets a big boost with Stamkos and Marchessault being on the wings of Tommy Novak, who had a pretty decent year last year, actually, pretty underrated. With Paasarainen, Parssinen, and Colton Sissons with Luca Evangelista as their third line. Evangelista was pretty high up in Rookie of the Year voting, so look for him to make a big step. With Cole Smith, Michael McCarron, and Tomasino rounding out the forward core, and Mark Jankowski and Kamel vying for spots out of training camp. Their defense, got Roman Yossi and Carrier as the top pair, with Brady Shea and Dante Fabro rounding out the top 4. And then any combination of Lauzon, Luke Shen, and Molendick as their last pair / 7th defenseman.
What do you do when you wait? I can make this joke better. I had to go to the doctor the other day, and I was really concerned, and I was just wondering if I had some sort of cancer or something, and they were like, "No, Evan, the mole in your dick is fine."
All right. And their goalies are UC Saros and Scott Wedgwood. All right, Evan, where do you have this team finishing?
We don't have to keep that in.
Keep it in.
That's going to be the intro.
Yeah. Keep it in. You're keeping it in.
I have the Nashville in 5th. I have them just below Minnesota.
You have them dropping, eh?
Yeah, so here's my reasoning. While I think Nashville had a good year last year, they also went on a very incredible run. Does that happen all the time? No. As an Ottawa Senators fan, that happened once to me too. Didn't happen again. So while they added 3 very useful players, often it doesn't necessarily mesh right away. It's not necessarily like Stamkos is going to still be a 90-point player like Marsh, so may not score 40 goals this year. Riche doesn't necessarily going to score close to 20 goals either. With so many big players being added to a lineup, that there's going to be quite a bit of an adjustment, not just adding one player. So I see them having decent seasons, but I could see them slightly regressing last year, maybe the season after they do a bit better, or having a stronger second half. But I think there may be a little bit of adjustment.
Growing pains.
Such useful players coming from all different systems to kind of get used to playing together and all that. So, yeah.
All right. Call me an optimist. I have the Nashville Predators finishing 2nd. In the Central. Here's my reasoning. Resident Jets fan is not happy with me. They finished 10th in goals for and 16th in power play percentage, right? Now, we can say that Nyquist had a career year. We can say that O'Reilly had probably a better year than people thought he would. And Forsberg kind of emerged as like a superstar last year. Where I don't see Nyquist and O'Reilly having as good years. I do think Forsberg is going to stay at this level now for the rest of his career until he like drops off in play or whatever when he's in his mid-30s. But the addition of Stamkos and Marchessault, I think, helped the power play a lot. And I think also with Brady Shea addition, like whatever combination they use on the power play, I think is going to help a lot. And moving your power play from mid-tier to higher tier, it'll improve the goals per game. And 5-on-5, they were already a pretty good goal-scoring team. Now, where the biggest improvement for me comes is Saros, because he had a pretty bad first half last year, and I don't see that happening again. Um, so I think his improvement in play plus the addition of the new guys, I think that this is going to be a very, very tough team to beat. There are so many players that are quote unquote hard to play against, but on top of that, they also have a ton of skill. And this is me being a guy that criticized Homer having Stamkos in the top 10 of his left wingers, but I do think that he's going to make a big difference on the power play, even if he isn't that effective at 5-on-5. I think they have enough guys that are effective on 5-on-5 play. Yeah.
Damn, that was a turn for something I wasn't expecting. Okay.
Trying to be different, guys.
I have them at third in the div. I think their additions are great. I know they're older players. I know Stamkos and Marchessault are like, getting there. But I think they're good. I think Brady Shea is good. And I think that power play is going to be the big thing. Like, they were, 16th last year? Yeah, 16th.
Yeah.
They got to improve at least 3-4% with Stamkos and Marchessault and Brady Shea. Like, they got to. I could see them having a top 10 power play this season, especially with
Possible.
and that's going to make a massive difference. Saros, huge.
No, he's not.
Yeah, I think O'Reilly and Nyquist may not have a season like last season, sure, but they're still solid enough players along with Forsberg that I think this team looks good on paper. I have them third.
Evan, who's your ex?
Also, one thing, I still like Luke Shen, and he's on their last pair. I know he's 34.
Hey, that bottom pair combined, I think, has 600 hits or something like that last year. It's ridiculous.
That's a tough deco to play against.
Yeah.
When the third pairing comes on, that's a tough team to play against. Still, that's a tough.
And they're not that much of a minus defensively, so that helps as well.
Yeah, Luke Shen is pretty solid back there.
All right, Evan, who's your X factor? Luke Shen.
My X factor is
Molenbeek.
my X factor is Jonathan Marchessault, because I think while Stamkos is, like Sufi loves to say, a power play merchant, so that's where he will get.
I never called him that.
And Brady Shea kind of, I would say, gets to do what he wants more so playing with Dante Fabro. Where Jonathan Marchessault, I feel like at the age of 33 and has been good for a while, is smaller, and I feel like in the NHL, if you're a smaller player, being bullied over the years, or even just being a really big player, you're not moderate sized in the NHL. Hurts your body. And so I wonder if, after scoring around 30 to 40 goals over the past few years, if he can keep that up, especially with people he hasn't played with before, and maybe not that great of a center. He's all right, but, going from playing with, depending on the day, either Jack Eichel, Thomas Hertl, or William Karlsson, to someone who had a decent year last year, but being their, kind of breakout year, sort of, will that affect his play? And maybe he goes down to a 50-point player instead of a 60, 70. So I'm very interested to see how he fits in more than some of their other additions.
Fair enough. I do have Stamkos being their X factor. I think that they put a lot of stock into him being the player that we saw in Tampa last year, where it was 80 points, as Omer says, is very hard to get. And that was his main reasoning for him being a top 10 left winger. And, I think that's what Nashville's looking at. They're looking at a player that, has scored a ton of points in his career. And outside of Forsberg, they haven't really had much superstar talent offensively, similar to someone like a team like Minnesota. It's been Kaprizov since he's come into the league. So I think they need Stamkos to be some sort of offensive revelation, at least on the power play minimum.
Sophie, can you turn off your sirens, please?
Bro, there's so many around here. It's crazy. There's also a thunderstorm happening right now, so it might be something to do with that. But yeah, Stamkos making $8 million. I think they're expecting him to produce quite a lot, and him doing so is pretty important to this team.
Yeah, I also have Stamkos. So the main thing with Stamkos this year, which I think makes him an X factor, is because yeah, he's gotten a lot of points and goes off the power play and whatnot, but his play is very determined this year. Like the difference he makes is going to be very determine what he can do 5-on-5, especially because he's now playing with Marchessault as well. And that's going to impact how Marchessault does. Like I've been talking about, is Marchessault going to score 30, 40 goals again? Marchessault's about to play with someone who's going to be the goal scorer on his line, which is Stamkos. But how can Stamkos kind of adjust his game to also help Marchessault out? And how can they mesh together? Like he's going to be a big X factor. I think Marchessault's going to do what he does. Like Marchessault's not that much heavily reliant on power play as much as Stamkos is, which I think is why Stamkos becomes more of the X factor for me, because if he needs to elevate his game beyond that to also help his line mates, and Marchessault is going to be a direct impact on his line.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the St. Louis Blues.
All right. So your 2023-24 St. Louis Blues had a record of 43 wins, 33 losses, and 6 OT losses, which was good for 5th in the Central Division. 31 regulation wins, which was good for 21st. They missed the playoffs. Goals for per game, 2.85 at 24th. Goals against per game, 3.02 at 15th. Power play percentage, 18%, good for 24th. PK at 79.1%, which was 18th. And their average age is 27.9, so let's call it at 28.
So they have quite a few free agents that came this year, or qualifying offers. So they have Dylan Holloway, Mathieu Joseph, Alex Texier, Radek Faksa, Philip Broberg, Ryan Suter, and Pierre-Olivier Joseph. Then they also have, they're hoping to make the lineups, Jimmy
Snuggerud.
and Zach Bolduc. Their key departures being Kevin Hayes, Jacob Verana, Sammy Blais, and Marco Scandella. Go ahead, Sam.
All right. So down the middle, they have their top 6 centers are the same as they've been for the last few years: Robert Thomas and Braden Chen, with Radek Faksa and Oscar Sundqvist rounding out the center core. Then the wingers, you're looking at, honestly, any of these guys could be in the top 6 that I have in the top 9 here. Brendan Saw, Dylan Holloway, Matthew Joseph on the left, and Pavel Buchnevich, Jordan Kyrou, and Jake Neighbors, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Jake Neighbors? Yeah. I think, honestly, like Buchnevich and Kyrou are going to be in the top 6 for sure, but then any of the other guys I think could be in the top 6 that I named. And then Texier, Walker, Toropchenko, and Kasperi Kapanen are vying for the last winger spots on the 4th line. On defense, Philip Broberg, new addition, is projected to play with Colton Parayko, with Nick Leddy and Justin Falk rounding out the top 4. And then Ryan Suter, I think, will probably end up in the top 6, but they have the defenseman version of Kessel, and P.O. Joseph and Scott Perunovich also vying for spots. Goaltending tandem, which was actually surprisingly good last year, Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer are back again for another year. So I think I'm first for this one.
You're first.
Okay. I have Sufi's hot takes are reaching quite a level here. I have them finishing 7th in the Central Division. I think a lot of their additions were menial. Like, a lot of these guys are players. They're definitely players.
That means you have Winnipeg at 6th?
No. I still have 5, 6 available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I have them 7th.
Okay.
So, like, Holloway, Joseph, Faksa, Texier, like, nothing much is happening there for me in terms of new additions. I do like Robert Thomas. I think Kyrou and Buchnevich as other top six wingers are pretty good as well. But I think everything else in the forward core is pretty meh, and I don't see them finishing very high in goal scored. The defense is probably the biggest concern for me. I think Parayko plays a lot of minutes for someone that shouldn't be getting a lot of minutes. Where now Broberg, you're kind of getting thrown into some fire here. Like this guy was a seventh defenseman on Edmonton and was kind of an outcast there. And now they gave him like a pretty healthy contract to come in and be in the top four. So we're going to see what he does. Nicoletti is okay, and Justin Falk is actually decent. But I think the rest of that deep core is not doing much for me. The goaltending, Binnington and Hofer, I like. But I do see some regression there on Binnington's end. So that's why I have them a little bit lower in the division this year. I don't see this team moving up, and I definitely would not be surprised if they move down.
Okay.
Homer?
I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think I left them at. I haven't moved them from where they were last year. I left them at fifth. I didn't put them down to seventh, but they're definitely not going up, in my opinion. I don't think Binnington's going to have a good season. Surprise, surprise. I think Robert Thomas can probably be even better. Like he could be like a 90-something, 100-point player. Sure. Braden Shen does nothing for me.
I love Braden Shen, bro.
He does. He never has and never will do anything for me.
Damn.
Yeah, and their decor is their decor. I don't know, like Parayko, sure, but yeah, I mean, I have them staying at fifth. I don't have them moving up or down. I mean, technically, I could put them at lower at sixth and bring Minnesota up to fifth, but yeah,
Interchangeable for you.
interchangeable for me. Yeah.
I also have St. Louis at seventh, for similar reasons. Like Broberg being the best addition this offseason. Like Holloway's all right. Faxa's like probably on a good.
He's a player.
Like a fourth liner. Matthew
Yeah.
Joseph, all right. Saw him play lots last year. Like he's a good, all right third liner. Texier didn't play last year. Suter's really old. Joseph
Really
is
old.
probably like a seventh defenseman. And then as well, like Saad, I feel like has just been like he scores 20 goals every year and maybe around 20 assists. And I don't know, since he was like much younger, hasn't been that outstanding. Braden Shen getting quite old. I don't know, just like, yeah, and their defense core is pretty old overall. I don't know, just doesn't do it for me. Like I don't see them being that bad. I still see them probably being around 500, maybe slightly above. But I think most of the other teams are going to be better than them, and so I have them second last in the Central Division, just because I feel like their additions are players. They're additions, not key additions.
I was going to argue you saying Broberg is the best addition, and then I realized that he actually is. Because I'm like, there's no one else there. Like it's him or Holloway, I guess.
Factor.
My X factor is Jake Neighbors. He had 27 goals last year as a rookie.
I drafted him last year in fantasy, and then I dropped him after 2 weeks because he didn't score, and then he scored 27.
Damn.
I have him this year.
27, yeah. He's
I
yeah. For a team that's going to struggle to score, I think that Neighbors outside 30 goal potential, you know, and maybe he can take another step in his overall game as well and do something for this team to hopefully not have them in standings purgatory. But I think he is someone that can take a spot out of the top six, out of like take Brandon Saad or Dylan Holloway out of the top six. I think Neighbors could be a guy that does that. Omer?
Mine is Robert Thomas. If he can get even better, if he can be like a 100-point player, I think he's really the only one up there, apart from Neighbors, who like can make a significant impact on their offense because Braden Shen ain't doing it.
You're big.
Yeah, there you go.
So big.
Kyrou.
So my X factor would be Binnington. Like, while I think Kyrou, Buchnevich, and Robert Thomas, I feel like you know more or less what you're going to get out of them between like 60 to mid 80,
80.
maybe high 80 points. he's a guy where he's had pretty good seasons as well as had some not so good seasons. So if they were to make playoffs or really be more competitive, I think they have to have good goaltending. And while I think they probably do have an underrated duo, I think
Yeah.
Binnington's really going to have to be like quite a solid starter for that to be kind of an option.
which he will not be.
I could see, and like Bennington had a good year last year, but Hofer, in terms of all like the nerd stats, he was actually like one of the better backups in the league, and also just in like GA and save percentage like, blanket, he was really good last year. So who knows? He's young enough where he could potentially take the starting job off him as well.
All right, your brand new Utah Hockey Club, previously known as the Arizona Coyotes.
Previously known as the Phoenix Coyotes.
Previously known as the
Previously known
as
as
the
the
Winnipeg
Winnipeg
Jets.
Jets,
Oh, true. I forgot about that. Okay.
or the Dale Howardchuk Winnipeg Jets.
Okay. So, well, last year's Arizona Coyotes had a record of 36 wins, 41 losses, and 5 OT losses, good for 7th in the Central. 28 regulation wins, 24th in the league. They missed the playoffs. Goals for per game, 3.1, which is 17th. Goals against per game, 3.34, which was 25th. Power play percentage, 22% at 15th. PK percentage, 76.3 at 25th. Average age is 26 years old. And, oh yeah, on LTIR they have Weber.
Bro, I was writing that down and I was like, Shea Weber. Like, that's Shea Weber.
Yeah, I was like,
Like, what?
Yannick Weber makes $7.8 million.
That's why I was like, wait, there's no way.
how old is
All right.
Yannick Weber now?
Who knows, bro?
All right, so some key additions on forward they have are Kyler Yamamoto as well as Kevin Stenlund. Yamamoto is there on a player tryout, and Stenlund signed a contract. They also have rookie who scored 2 goals in his first game, I think. Josh.
I think so,
Stenlund.
yeah.
So they'll all be kind of fight for fourth line minutes. Excuse me. On defense, they have some really great additions. They have Mikhail Sergachev being their number 1 defenseman that they added. Probably added their number 2 defenseman being Marino. And then they have Ian Cole rounding out their bottom pairing. So to me, those are really big additions. People who left are Connor Geekie, Travis Boyd, JJ Moser, Travis Dermott, and Josh Brown.
No, Dermott. How are they going to ever win?
No, they lost an ex-Leaf and a Senator.
I'm pretty sure Dermott ended up on a PTO in Edmonton. I think they have that down or somewhere.
Yeah, that's
Oh, good for him.
Okay.
It's, whenever Connor McDavid's like ex-junior teammate ends up in free agency, they sign him to a PTO. That's pretty much what happens.
All right, so we're going to start with me here.
I'm going to go through the roster first. The top 6 is extremely young. Oldest player being 28, Nick Schmaltz. He will likely line up with Clayton Keller and Barrett Hayton, and then Mateus Michelli, Logan Cooley, and Dylan Gunther. 23, 20, and 21 in age are their second line. The bottom 6 is looking pretty decent. Lawson Krause, Nick Bustad, and Alex Kerfoot. With Liam O'Brien, Jack McBain, and Michael Carcone, I think is how you say his name. Yeah. I think Carcone got like one of our underrated player of the month awards last year at some point. So he had a ridiculous amount of goals. Yeah.
Stupid.
With Yamamoto, Stenlund, and Josh Stone like vying for spots. I think Josh Stone could potentially break into this lineup. The D-core is where this team is made, with Sergachev, Marino, Valimaki, and Sean Dursey as their top 4, which is considerably better than last year and considerably better than a lot of teams, to be honest. Got veteran Ian Cole and Michael Kesselring, who had a pretty good year last year, as their bottom pair, and Coley Chinook and Robert Bertuzzo as guys potentially looking for roster spots. Their goaltending tandem is coming back from last year. Both are 27 and 28, Connor Ingram and Carol Pichmelka. So, Omer, where do you have this team? I think I could guess.
Okay, I like that they got Sergachev and Marino. Don't get me wrong. They're still 8th for me. I don't. Yeah, I have them 8th in the div still. I don't. Well, not still. Sorry, I have them 8th in the div now. I think I put Chicago above them. they didn't do anything on offense. They're still the same guys, and they were like middle of the pack in goal scoring last year or something. Uh, yeah, they might see some improvements with the. I mean, they will see some improvement with the defense, but nothing else much has changed. I'm putting them at eighth.
Well, I think when Sufi said the top six is very young, that only means it can get better, right? So Nick Schmaltz, if healthy, very good player. Clayton Keller also very good. Logan Cooley, if he continues to improve, along with Dylan Genther. Some people are saying like he looks great. He's going to score like 30, blah, blah, blah. I'll believe it when I see it. But I do think there's a lot of potential in that top six to improve. The centers aren't that outstanding right now. Like I think Barrett Hayton is a first-line center. That's kind of tough. But he is playing with two good wingers. Honestly, really like their third line. Like, just experienced players on the third line that have played lots of games that can kind of just go out there, chip in a bit on offense, probably not get scored against that too often. Then you have, like the defense core is significantly better than last year. I think that could be a real strong point for them. Weird that it says Kessel Ring because Kessel did used to play on this team, but his ring wasn't with them. It should be called Kessel Rings because it's 3. And I think goaltending is also underrated. So I could see this team improving quite a bit all the way to 6th.
Yeah. Again, I also have him at 6th. So, but my thing with the team, Gunther actually, like I think the reason people are saying that is because he did have 18 goals in 45 games last year, which is a 30-goal pace, more than a 30-goal pace, with 35 points in 45 games, because he didn't make the roster at camp last year. So I could definitely see him being a 30-goal scorer this year. He definitely has the talent, and he already proved that he can score at that pace last year.
And they signed him for a friggin' fat deal, so he better score. I saw that. That's maybe one of the craziest, like most outrageous contracts I've ever seen. He's played 45 games, and he just signed like a $60 million deal. That's crazy. I could have done that.
He's played 78 games. He played 45 games last year. Either way, fair enough. But I think that he's got the potential to definitely make that contract look really good after the end of this year. Logan Cooley for me is I think he started off really hot last year, and if he can improve, then this top 6 looks a lot better. But yeah, generally speaking, the defense for me, the defensive improvements, I think that top 4 is really good. And with that goaltending, I could definitely see them moving up a bit in the standings to 6th. Omer, who's your X factor for this team?
Logan Cooley. He's the X factor. I know Sergachev and Marino and these guys are the big names that came in, but I think offensively and as a center, I think if Cooley puts in, like, I don't know where Cooley ended with how many points last year? Did it say?
I'll check.
I'm not sure, but I think he's 20, and as you guys are saying, the young, they can only get better. They really need him to get better, a lot better. Not a lot better. I mean, just like, take another step.
Cooley had 44 points and 20 goals.
Yeah. So if you can become at least like a 65-point player, you would need that.
Fair enough.
All right. I also had Cooley written down, but I think Genther is also right there with him. I think, especially maybe the pressure, hopefully he deals with it well, of signing such a big deal does get to some players. So if he can come in and produce that how he did last year, or improve on that and score maybe around 30, get mid to high 20s in assists, he can make that look like he's progressing at a really good rate and make that contract kind of fit to where he's headed. Those two guys in general, I think they are really hoping for progression out of them, being really high picks, and that's something they're going to need if they are going to push for playoffs, which I think with this roster, they could flirt with it a little bit.
Yeah. Who knows?
Let's not get carried away.
By Christmas, if they just start hot and Logan Cooley and Genther look sick, I could see them in like a while.
Yeah. I mean, I think the central from like 4 to 7 is pretty like close, to be honest. So
back to this guy.
Mikhail Sergachev is my X factor, and this is mainly just because of injury reasons. Played 19 games last year, and he's had major injuries over his career, and they gave up quite a lot to get him. So I think that him being healthy is imperative, especially considering how much stock I'm putting into their defense being good to them moving into sixth instead of seventh. So yeah.
All right, so your 2023-2024 Winnipeg Jets had a record of 52 wins, 24 losses, and 6 OT losses, which was good for second in the Central. 46 regulation wins. They were first, lost in round one of the playoffs, 3.16 goals for per game, which was 15th, 2.41 goals against per game, which is second, 18.8 power play percentage, 22nd, and 77.1 PK percentage, which was 21st. Average age is 27 years old.
All right, so some of their new additions involve on forward. They have Jared Anderson Dolan, who will be fighting for a fourth line role, most likely. On defense, they have Hayden Fleury on the right side, fighting for a bottom pair spot. And then in goal, they have Capo Kakinen backing up Connor Hellebuck and Eric Comrie for his 17th stint in Winnipeg. Coming back. And,
for real.
Hoping to also maybe knock out Capo Kakinen for the backup role. Some of the key departures are Tyler Toffoli, Sean Monahan, Rutger,
Rucker.
Rutger, Margarity, Brendan Dillon, and French resident of Chicago, Laurent Bourgeois.
Did you say Brad Lambert?
He's not on there.
Yeah, he is as a rookie.
But his name isn't highlighted.
Yeah. He could still make the team.
He's
just a center, so I'm not going to put him in the wing.
All right. So my Excel spreadsheet that I made, I messed up. Brad Lambert, team hopeful. Sounds like he's from the States. He's from Finland.
He's from Finland. Yeah. What a name that is.
No.
Yeah. All right. Their forward core is looking like pretty similar to last year, actually, except for two pretty decent departures in Toffoli and Monahan. But Connor and Scheifele are likely to line up with either Niederreiter or Perfetti, and then the second line is looking like Velarde and Ehlers. I did see some depth charts that had Velarde on Scheifele and Connor's wing with Adam Lowry as a second line center, which I hope for them isn't true. But yeah, third line's looking like Iafallo, Lowry, Appleton, and then any combination of Baron Nemesnikov, Johnson Filyabi, Rasmus Kupari, and Jared Anderson Dolan as their fourth line. The defense, Morrissey and DeMello are pretty much the mainstays, where Sandberg, Pionk, Colin Miller, Logan Stanley could be mixed matched a little bit. Vinny Heinola and Hayden Fleury are also vying for spots in that top six. Connor Hellebuck is going to be the starter on this team for quite a while, so they're just going to try out new backups to make sure that someone can fill in those 20, 25 games that he doesn't play. All right,
Evan.
Omer.
Well, since this is my favorite team, I have them second. I have them second because I think they have had multiple good years in a row. I think they have, you could argue, elite or elite-ish players at every position. They have Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, who are, and even Nikolai Ehlers, who is really high skill level. Forward, I think they also have pretty good depth. Like, while maybe like Nino Niederreiter, or Gabe Velarde, you could argue shouldn't be on those lines on other teams. I feel like their third line with Iafallo, Lowry, and Appleton, that's pretty strong. Then on defense, Morrissey has had back-to-back really good years. If he can continue to just show that he's a really good offensively producing defenseman. Pionk's good puck mover. DeMello, solid defensively. Their maybe depth on defense is a little weaker, so I can see them, if they're progressing towards the playoffs, trading for defensemen. Then Connor Hellebuck won the Vezina Trophy last year. He's going to win you games, maybe when you shouldn't. So even if the defense isn't super strong, he kind of makes up for that. So for me, I think they're good enough to stay in second. Maybe a few less points than last year. I think Dallas may run away with the first spot, but I see them finishing in second.
The Jets fifth. I think that we have different views on the players, which is the main discrepancy here. Sure. I think that Hellebuck is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. I think the offense without Toffoli and Monahan loses goals mainly, and a lot of the players that are filling in aren't adequate replacements. And the defense to me is just really bad. Like, a lot of their team defense stats outside of goaltending were really bad, and Hellebuck is doing a lot of like blemish fixing, and I don't know if he's going to have another extremely good. Like, I don't think people understood how good his year was last year, and expecting that back-to-back years is out of any goalie is tough. So I think that they see a significant drop because they didn't really add anyone, and the defense and offense got worse. So I see them dropping out. But once we're done this last review, we'll go over all of our teams, and who knows, maybe I have them in the playoffs still. Homer?
I have them fourth. I put Nashville, Colorado above them. Yeah, I'm not crazy about their defense either, but I don't know if I feel like Hellebuck can still have a great season. I think, like, for me, they're still like a playoff team, and they're still though they just I dropped them out of the top three. But yeah, I had them finishing fourth. That's my last one.
All right, so X Factor.
My X Factor is Josh Morrissey. As you said, defense probably being their weakest position. I think if he can kind of continue to solidify himself as their number one defenseman, and could be a number one defenseman on a lot of teams, and just being a good puck mover, getting like 70 points, that would be huge for them, especially with the losses on forward. If he can kind of continue to make up for some of those lost points, and so other teams that might not have as an offensive of a defenseman, that's huge for them. I know that some of their forwards also weren't totally healthy all of last year, so maybe even with Toffoli and Monahan leaving, maybe those guys, or just getting a bit older, can kind of supply goals where they're now missing. And so Josh Morrissey will contribute to the success of the Winnipeg Jets.
My X Factor is Cole Perfetti. I think that he has to make a pretty significant jump this year. I think part of the reason of them not going out and getting another Toffoli Monahan type player was their belief that Perfetti could, be in the top six and contribute. But 38 points just isn't really going to cut it, even though that was fifth on the team last year. We're going to need to see that get to at least about 55, 60 to hopefully help this team score and, take some of the pressure off of Hellebuck, because he's going to be pretty stressed out playing with that decor. So, Cole Perfetti.
I'm going to go Hellebuck. Because he's always going to be their X Factor. I mean, without him, I don't know how that is screwed up at all. So, for me, it's Hellebuck. If he has a season like he did last year, or if he plays like he's meant to be playing, they'll be okay. If he doesn't, well, it all rides on him. Like, some of these individual players can make a difference, and they do, but it's all on him.
All right.
So at 8, I have the Utah Hockey Club.
At 8, I have the Chicago Blackhawks.
The Chicago Blackhawks at 8.
At 7, I have the Chicago Blackhawks.
At 7th, I have St. Louis.
7th, I have St. Louis.
At 6, I've got the Minnesota Wild.
At 6, I have the Utah Hockey Club.
6, I have the Utah Hockey Club.
At 5, I have St. Louis Blues. I do not have them making the playoffs, though.
At 5, I have Nashville missing the playoffs.
No way.
At 5, I have the Winnipeg Jets making the playoffs.
At 4, I've got the Winnipeg Jets making the playoffs.
At 4, I have the Minnesota Wild making the playoffs.
At 4, I have the Wild. Yeah, I mean, for me, it goes without saying they make playoffs.
At 3, I've got the Nashville Predators making the playoffs.
At 3,
You don't
I
have to say
have
it from now.
Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
All right, at 3, I also have Colorado.
At 2, I have Colorado.
At 2, I have the Winnipeg Jets.
At 2, I have the Preds.
At 1, I have the Dallas Stars.
Dallas Stars.
Dallas Stars. All right.
Whether you like it or not, those are our lists. Okay? We want to thank you for tuning into today's episode, number 71, Chris Tierney. Ridley Gregg, if you like, if you're a Leaf fan. Omar, where can you find us?
On Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon
Stitcher.
Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, SiriusXM. Check us out on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, on Twitter, on X and on Instagram at The Unfortunate Diehards. And we'll see you next week with our Pacific Division